Hey, Matt, what do Kevin Nash, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Hook have in common?
They all have something to do with wrestling.
We're talking about them this time on Wrestling with the Business.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Wrestling with the Business. We're just a dynamic duo here today, and we're going to bring you all the high spots, the chair shots, the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs of the wrestling business. And we got a pretty good show planned out for you here. We're talking our weekly highlights. We're talking, like you teased earlier, Kevin Nash, LA Knight, Hook. We're going to find out what all these guys got going on now. So let's just get right into it. Let's start with our weekly highlights. Jer, what happened on SmackDown? You know what? Let's do a little different. Give me a high spot and give me a blown spot from last week.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on, both in and outside the ring, actually, given the fact that there's no premium live events going on. Raw. So Raw, Madison Square Garden, sold out. SmackDown, Madison Square Garden, sold out. I would have to say it was a reasonably good show, middle of the road. I would say my high spot would be Edge versus Grayson Waller. Edge still has it, and it was the first time Grayson Waller really wrestled.
Yeah, he's just been doing the talk show
stuff. He's just been doing the show. So it was kind of nice to see. He kind of hung with it. He was kind of smack talking Edge on his show, and then that led to a follow-up match. And Edge was kind of like, I'm going to test you, like sink or swim kind of a thing. And they had a really solid match. I mean, a very solid, good weeknight match. And Edge went over, but he closed it by saying, you swam. And then he took off. So it was kind of nice. I mean, Edge is kind of fulfilling his role as talent development, making the young guys look good. He still kind of went over on Grayson Waller, which you have to do with a guy like Edge making his last run.
Of course.
But he found a way to make him look good. So that was actually really, really kind of enjoyable. Low spot came 2 segments before that, which was when AJ Styles and Karrion Kross went at it.
Yeah,
Again,
I heard that wasn't great.
This tired old saw. It was about 2 minutes long, and it was very quick. And AJ Styles went over, and it was just really bad. They're trying to do like a Meech and Scarlett tension thing. It's not going over. Nobody looks good. I mean, think about it. AJ Styles was going for the title a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was going for the title, and now they've got him at the bottom of the mid-card feuding with Karrion Kross for no reason, and they just can't find a way to make it interesting. So yeah, that, and I guess the other low spot would be the fact that Bloodline drama with no actual wrestling chewed up 45 minutes.
On a 2-hour show.
Well, there was only an hour and 27 minutes of actual action.
Right.
Like screen. And it was 35 minutes. The opening segment was 35 minutes. And all it was...
That was the trial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the Bloodline tribunal or whatever. It dragged. It was very difficult. They had Roman Reigns crying. Like, they actually showed him shedding the one noble tear. And then double cross and all that stuff. It was all high school drama style stuff, though. Very heavily into that this week on SmackDown. So overall, middle of the road, but not hardly any wrestling at all.
Jeez. What about Raw?
Raw this week was a little bit of a different story. There was way more action than I'm used to seeing in Raw. I don't have the times or anything, but there was a lot more actual in-ring action, especially compared to SmackDown. My high spot, I actually had 2 good high spots. So the best match of the night, hands down, Imperium versus Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle.
Yep.
Excellent match. Great way to build drama. They found a way to build drama between Drew McIntyre and Gunther. That'll be a great match at SummerSlam. I kind of hope Gunther loses the title to Drew McIntyre. That would be cool. He's held it for a while. He's given it some esteem. Obviously, love watching Kaiser and Vinci wrestle because they're just great tacticians. Solidly executed. There was an extremely funny moment, though, after a women's tag match. Backstage, they're trying to do this weird thing where Liv Rod and Rhea Ripley kind of have some heat going there.
They're trying to set up Raquel as her next opponent.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
clearly trying to put Raquel over because anytime they come together, it's always Raquel and Rhea that are always eye to eye. So they were doing that, right? The camera comes in and you can see Liv Morgan, like she's like the referee. She's like in between them, and behind Rhea Ripley is Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, and Rhea gets right in Raquel's face and says, you know, the second strike came last week when you interfered in my business. And Chelsea Green sticks her head over Rhea's shoulder and goes, yeah, and 3 strikes you're out, just like in basketball. And you can see Liv Morgan, who's in the middle of the screen, break character. You can see her just go, like, and you can kind of see Sonya Deville chuckle in the back. It was very funny. It went over really well with me. If you got to do story, you may as well make it funny, and that was very funny. My botch spot was unfortunately related to Alpha Academy, our favorite undervalued group. They came out and they were doing some kind of a graduation ceremony with Maxine Dupree, where they were
she graduated from the academy.
Yep, they were gonna put a Letterman jacket on her. All of a sudden, the Viking Raiders appear out of nowhere. Distraction. Valhalla comes up from behind and steals the Letterman jacket and triumphantly walks off. It was just, again, this is one that they keep. It's like, oh, we got 5 minutes, we need to do something. Throw Alpha Academy and the Viking Raiders in there.
Yeah.
So there's no real development going on.
The Viking Raiders could be a seriously badass team, but they keep kind of making them look goofy.
Dude, they're outstanding. Like, they're great wrestlers, Eric and Ivar. I mean, they could do a decent job. They could have a great feud, a great mid-card feud.
I mean, you want to see some of their good stuff, go back to their ROH days when they were War Machine, and the matches they were having then, man, were incredible.
Yeah, this is one where, we always argue over talent versus management. This is definitely a management issue on this front. They're not booking them well at all. So overall, there were some good high spots. There was some drama with Judgment Day and that kind of stuff. But, I mean, overall, I would say this was pretty average as far as Raw, but good on the action. There was a lot more action than usual.
Oh, well, that's good.
Tell me about Dynamite.
All right, I got one major high spot for Dynamite, one smaller high spot, but the major one, again, same as last week, MJF, Adam Cole, this team.
What was it this time?
This friendship. This is the best thing AEW has got right now. They did another video package where they're spending time together, trying to get to know each other. They're at a bar. And
that's right, they're drinking, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
4 girls walk up, and MJF's like, dude, 2 and 2, let's go. But, Adam Cole's like, nope, I'm with Britt. I love
Britt's
Britt.
Gonna beat me up.
So MJF goes and takes all 4 of them. He comes back later, and, Adam Cole's a little wasted at this point. He's trying to get Adam Cole to wear their shirt, their custom I'm Better Than You, Baby shirt. Speaking of which.
Huh. I wouldn't know anything. That sounds so stupid.
And Adam's
Wearing
like, I'll wear the shirt if we do what I want to do. And they go and play the new AEW video game.
Corny.
But, it's, not to get too cheesy, but this is really breaking down the story here where they're playing the game and MJF is like, just kind of under his breath, wow, video games are really cool when you got a buddy to play them with. So it's like, Adam Cole's like, wow, so you've never played a multiplayer game because you have no friends, and that kind of got him a little closer, and it's really playing to Adam Cole's good guy side, It's just a really good story, really underlying, they both admitted, oh, I was going to turn on you, I was going to turn on you, but now we're going to go for the titles. It was really cool. So
how long before the devil turns on him?
I think I think they're gonna win this tournament.
All in.
They're gonna go for the titles, and yeah, I really want to see them win the titles, but I think they're gonna lose, and then MJF is gonna turn. I assume, but their match that last night.
You think they're going for an all-in run though? You think there's gonna be a heel turn between now and then there's gonna be a big match at All In? You think this will be
at
Wembley?
All In, right, in Wembley?
Yeah,
I think that'll be the world title match. I assume. If they don't win the tag
they
titles.
can't put the world. You think they're going to put the world title and the tag titles on MJF?
Why not?
I mean, well, this will come later in the show, but WWE's doing it, so why not? And
overall, I had another a minor high spot, but really popped me. Kota Ibushi is now in AEW. He's
the Pac's back.
Pac's back too.
Related to
but
that.
Kota Ibushi, phenomenal wrestler. He's joining the Elite for the Blood and Guts match next week. But that's going to be awesome. He is an excellent wrestler.
They kind of botched his appearance though a little bit.
Yeah, that was a little bit of the low spot.
Yeah, they kind of botched that. Pac's
When-
kind of was blown too. I still got one more to pick. With the chair on his
Yeah,
neck.
having the chair on Kenny Omega's neck and then saying, "Watch the screen, we got friends," and yeah, that was a little lame. But just the fact that he's going to be there, that's awesome. Blown spot of the night though. I think this was the same last week. Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
Not really digging this story between him and Hook.
You know, there's people on the internet that are actually bragging about the Jungle Book, the Jungle Boy storyline.
Ugh.
About how Christian Cage is responsible for Luchasaurus looking really badass and the progress that Jungle Boy has made. And I'm like, dude,
No.
you're bragging about the wrong thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, they just need to have their match on Collision or Rampage, whatever it's going to be, and just get it
They're
over
gonna
with.
dump it on Rampage. It's gonna get so bad. They're gonna let it go way too long, and then it's
Yeah.
gonna be like, hey, we gotta put you on Rampage, man. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
this
we're
sucks.
done.
It's not going over at all. You get nothing but go away heat,
Overall, an average show for Dynamite, though.
which is good. I mean, it still is a good
it's
show.
still a good show, obviously.
Excellent.
Let's talk about the ratings real quick, though. See what everyone else thought. SmackDown, 2.561 million.
That's good. Let me look. I think I still have last week's ratings somewhere in here. Last week, SmackDown 2.7.
Okay, so a little down. Rampage was 368,000.
Yeah, that's a big drop. They were 450
Oof.
last week.
Collision up 580.
Yeah, that was big. They were only 450 last week, so that's a big bump on Wednesday night.
Yep. Raw 1.8 million.
The same, 1.8.
NXT 671,000.
That's a big up. They were only 500K last week.
Wow. And Dynamite 825,000.
Which is we didn't have them last week actually.
didn't come out in time. I think
Yeah.
that's about the same. I think
yeah,
they were
they've
around
been
800.
sitting in 800 range for a long time.
So, we mentioned Collision and their ratings last week was around 400 something.
452.
452. Thank you. Apparently, we talked about what Warner Brothers thinks about it and everything, but apparently they're pretty happy with it. I think what they're really looking at, the metric is where they rank among other shows on that night. So as long as they're in the top 5 on cable, they're happy with whatever the rating is.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you put yourself inside Turner's, well, not Turner's, well, yeah, Turner, because it's still its own channel.
Yeah.
Like when you put yourself in their shoes, yeah, I mean, if you can get 500,000 eyeballs on a Saturday night in the middle of the summer, you know, I don't know what expectation is going forward, but I mean that, like I think I said to him, that's going to beat the crap out of some tired rerun that
Right.
you know TBS has under contract or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they already paid a gajillion dollars for. And then when you look at the investment, I think they gave, what did we say? It was like $50 million for, I don't even know how many years. But even if it only runs a couple of years, that's going to be a lot less investment-wise when you compare it to some of the bigger shows in syndicate. Friends, like how much are you going to have to pay to syndicate Friends or, you know, one of those.
Right.
It's a good investment from their perspective.
All right. So let's move on to news and rumors then. Falls Count Anywhere last Monday. Tried something different.
It was a fun one.
Yeah, I liked it.
I liked it. I think we should make the we need to work with Steve to get the screen a little bit larger on the bottom. I had a hard time seeing it.
Yep.
But it was a great match. Everybody should check it out. Shenron versus Amazing Red from 2015. It was a really solid match, really brought together a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. You know, it's one thing to sit here and geek out and mark out a little bit on cultures and moves and all that stuff, but then to see it all come together as to one product, it's really was really an enjoyable experience for me.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely going to try that again. This week's episode, we're doing something different again. We're answering fan questions.
Oh, this ought to be good.
And you have not seen these questions yet, so I'm going to be
No, so
I'll be asking you blind.
to get Steve to get the bleep button ready, because Lord knows I'm going to say something off color.
So next order of business. She's been getting jobbed out a lot lately, so we wanted to make sure we gave her a little love. Natalia, we didn't talk about this last week. During Money in the Bank weekend, Natalia received 6 Guinness World Records.
Yeah, kind of weird, huh?
Yeah. So I'll just run through them quick here. She.
Well, hang on. All of her records are related to her time in WWE.
Yes.
So she's been wrestling for a long time, but
been
not
wrestling-
nearly as long as she's been in WWE.
She's been in WWE since 2007, and she started wrestling 7 years before that, 2000.
Yeah. So
So she's a 23-year
and these are
vet.
all female-related records, right? They're all
Not all of them, no.
no. What do we got?
So, let's see. Most WWE matches for a female, over 1,514.
I wonder how many of those are squashes.
Most WWE wins in a career for a female, 663. Not many of them have been recent, but that's another story. Most WWE pay-per-view PLE appearance for a female, 75. Most WrestleMania appearances for a female with 8, which is unbelievable. I thought for sure Trish or somebody else would have had that, but most WWE Raw matches, 174, and that doesn't say just for females. And most SmackDown matches with 200. Also doesn't specify just for females, so I think that's in general.
You know, and there's some other important cultural impacts too. If I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, Professor, but it was Natalia and Lacey Evans that wrestled in Saudi Arabia the first time, right?
I think it was Alexa Bliss, not Lacey Evans. I
So
think.
it was Alexa Bliss
And Natalia.
but it was Natalia.
Yes.
So there's some other cultural impacts there. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It seems kind of. It seems I don't know, like a work. I mean, it might be true, but like the timing of already being over there with Money in the Bank.
I was
and-
wondering that too, because they've done that in the past with like the ESPN awards, where they had their own categories a couple years ago, and they were getting the
Yeah, that was
awards
lame. The
on the red
ESPYs.
carpet. Yeah, so who knows? This could be a work. This could be legit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she's worked really hard. I mean, she's had a lot of
23
success. She's definitely a Hall of Famer, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, is Brett in?
Brett is in, yes. I think
Brett's
so.
in, but obviously Owen will never be in, unfortunately, even though he deserves it.
Right, Brett went in with the Hart Foundation with Jim Neidhart, and he might have gone in by himself too. I'm not sure about that.
No one would argue that he doesn't deserve to go in by himself, but
Sure.
you know, so she's for certain going to have a Hall of Fame career. I mean, I don't know. I think it's good to see her getting a little bit of appreciation, considering she's been getting no love inside the ring until a week ago when she actually had a decent match.
Still lost.
Still lost, of course. But, you know, she's become a veteran. She's been wrestling on TV now for 23 years. You know, I mean, it's kind of your job to put over the new kids.
Right.
Even though they didn't really put her over very well.
Yeah,
either.
I actually made a note of that. In that time, since being in WWE since 2007, she's been Diva Champ 1 time, SmackDown Women's Champ 1 time, and a Tag Champ 1 time.
Fun fact, that means that she has had as many Divas Championships as our Divas Champion,
That's true.
Dan Shevlin, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but we do have his belt here in memoriam. I'm sure he'll be back next week. But Dan Shevlin now tied with Natalia, multi-time Guinness record holder in WWE. So really breaking records here on WWB.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, she was not a very, and that's why the whole wins 663 strikes me, because yeah, she really hasn't. She does not have a very illustrious, from a championship perspective, career, especially when you compare her to some of her companions. You know, Charlotte. You know, even Becky Lynch, who's a lot younger.
Charlotte's a 14-time champion now?
14 or 15,
16,
yeah,
who knows?
Close to her dad.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm just looking at that. Most WWE matches with over 1,500, and 663 of those were wins.
Oh yeah, so do the math there.
Right.
I mean, how many of them are dusty finishes or whatever? But
Yep.
I mean, yeah, you're looking at 900 losses.
Yep.
So yeah, 30% win rate there, 35% win rate. So I don't know. Cool to see, interesting.
Yeah.
You know, that gives me a really good idea. Maybe we'll have to look at some other records, Guinness records for wrestling.
Yeah.
Might be interesting to look at for Falls Count Anywhere. Something to think about.
All right, moving on. You spoke about Raw earlier. The main event was a 6-man tag. Seth Rollins and ZKO versus Judgment Day, and apparently after the fact, backstage, there was a little bit of a dust-up. I guess some moves didn't go as planned in the match, and there was some heated arguments.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I'm not remembering any big botches from the match. I do remember Rhea selling it hard. Oh, and I remember the coup de grace on Sami Zayn to finish. Oh, he landed on his stomach, and it didn't look like Sami got his hands down in time.
Yep.
I mean, oh man, Sami. A coup de grace looks bad anyways. The double foot stomp. Check out our Falls Count Anywhere on moves if you want to get a download on that. But it looked rough. So I wouldn't listen. If I was Sami, I'd be pissed.
So apparently this wasn't as big as AEW's Brawl Out with the Elite and CM Punk.
No suspensions or
just a little heated argument, but I think all's well now. Speaking of AEW, Brian Pillman Jr. no longer on the roster. He's the second or third wrestler now whose contract they've let expire.
It's time to let guys go.
I expected they were going to do a lot more with him, though. I mean, it's very common knowledge, AEW, most people in AEW, big WCW fans, so having a legacy Brian Pillman Jr. there.
He's the kind of guy that I think could really crush on the indie circuit.
He was big on the indies. That's
could,
why he was signed.
He could make his money. And I don't know, is WWE kind of with the whole Brian Pillman thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially after the Dark Side of the Ring and everything.
I expect if he goes to WWE, they're not going to do much with him.
They'd sign him to NXT or something. Yeah. I didn't think that they'd use him as a punching bag for talent that they actually wanted to develop. I mean,
they wouldn't push him past a tag team.
He's a great wrestler, but AEW's just it's getting crowded.
Mm-hmm.
There's no two ways about it.
Yeah,
and
it's
you
true.
Got to make room, and unfortunately, that's what happens. We need a third promotion. We need more wrestling because we don't have enough now.
WWE Fastlane has been announced. Indianapolis, October 7th.
Yes. For some reason, I thought that Fastlane was earlier in the year.
It probably used to be.
October? So this is going to be a big setup for Survivor Series. This will be the last big setup for Survivor Series. So we'll see what happens, but I'm sure they're going to start working now. I mean, it's a B-level pay-per-view, so whatever.
Another thing we spoke of last week, Fightful is now reporting that Ronda Rousey, we said last week, is looking to leave WWE after her feud with
That's what we heard.
Apparently, she's not considering going back to the UFC, which we did talk about last week.
Which is a very good decision, Ronda. Yeah. Very good. Unfortunately, this isn't like wrestling, professional wrestling. You can't just step out and step back in 5 years later after dealing with lots of injuries. I mean, she's had injury issues, both on the screen. Remember when her finger almost got cut off a few years ago? Both on screen and
then she took time off to have a kid.
Yeah, I mean, So this is clearly her home. It's the right place for her. She needs to do some mic work. She needs to do a lot of mic work.
She'd probably make more money in WWE anyway, right?
I mean, she's got to be making. We haven't talked about salaries in a long time. There's another Falls Count Anywhere idea, but I would have to guess without looking it up that she's making
$9 million.
No.
No, you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think the big dogs make that kind of money. I mean, not knowing what the not counting merch.
We did it. We did an episode on salaries in 2019.
Yeah, 3-4 years ago.
And I remember Brock Lesnar was making $12 million.
Yeah.
And Rousey then was the highest paid woman. I know that for sure.
There's no woman that touches Brock and Roman. No woman even I bet you the top woman makes $2 or $3 million. I bet you you probably count on one hand the number of women that make 7 figures.
Yeah, I think Charlotte was making $1 million.
Yeah, Charlotte, Rhea probably makes 7 figures.
I don't know.
Maybe Becky. Sable's basically on a Legends contract, or not Sable. Trish is basically on a Legends contract. Yeah, I know.
Well, you know what? Go back and watch that old episode of ours on YouTube. It was interesting to do it, and we're definitely going to have to
We
do
should
it
do
again.
an update. But, I mean, I'll bet you it's very similar. You're going to see Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns at the top. Actually, I think Triple H was actually at the top. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah, I think
He
it was
might
Lesnar and then
He
Triple
might have
H.
been. Yeah,
Because he
might
was
have been up
getting
there.
2 contracts.
Yeah, that's right, because he was making money on both ends.
Right. He
yeah.
was a performer and backstage. Yep. So last bit of news I got here is apparently AEW is really starting to turn the tide and become more WWE. There is a document going around that they now have a list of banned moves and a list of moves that some that are banned and some that they have to explicitly get permission to use in matches.
You think how many people are cursing MJF right now?
Right, we
I
talked
mean,
about it before.
Nobody can argue that he did not do this.
So
Nobody can argue. This is 100% MJF. This would not happen had he not dumped booze on a child.
right? So I've got a list here. So specifically, I'm quoting here from an article written up on Wrestle Talk. We watch those guys a lot on YouTube.
Yeah, they're
and
good. Check 'em
they
out.
do a lot. They do well with the news. So it says here specifically, a document was sent out that outright banned unprotected chair shots to the head. That's
Okay.
shots to the back of the head, buckle bombs, which is one you especially.
Yeah, that's just... Yeah. Direct chair shots, buckle bombs. I got it.
Yep.
I understand it.
Blind moves backwards into a turnbuckle, fencing responses, seizure cells.
Wait a minute. Blind moves backwards into a turnbuckle.
So I would assume that means like you got somebody on your back doing a chokehold and you back up and slam them into the turnbuckle without looking.
Okay. Yep, you see that occasionally. That's
Yep.
not particularly dangerous, though. That doesn't make much sense.
Seizure cells, so somebody gets beat up and then they just start shaking on the ring.
Now we're getting into WWE territory.
Yep. Spitting, bleeding in the crowd, weapons or projectiles in the crowd, taking drinks or food from guests in the crowd, MJF, or physical contact with the crowd, again, MJF. As well as noting that nothing with blood on it should be thrown into the crowd.
Well, that's obvious.
Yep. And then later on, there is a list verbatim from the document which are moves that need to be approved. Spots and bumps on the ring apron and outside. Table, ladder, chair spots in and out of the ring, only allowed with padding. Elevated.
Sorry, with padding?
Yep.
Like a gimmicked table?
Or with padding underneath it. This is talking outside the ring. Okay. Well, it says in and out of the ring, actually. Yeah. So, any elevated spots outside of the barricades.
I wonder if that counts if you stand on the barricade.
I'm on the line.
He's not touching it, Dad.
This one's a big one. All pile driver variations.
Yeah, there's a
Sit
billion.
down drivers.
There's a billion.
Poison ranas, vertebreakers. That would include the Canadian Destroyer that everyone does. High risk dives or top rope moves, 450, 630, moonsaults. Intentional bleeding of any sort, not just blading. This is all stuff that has to be approved. It's not outright banned. Throwing people into ring steps, commentary table, bell table, guardrails, barricades, weapon usage, chairs, pipes, kendo sticks, hammers, blah, 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 thumbtacks, barbed wire, throwing weapons or chairs, choking, strangling, injury spots or angles, physicality in the crowd, any physicality involving referees, managers, etc. So all that stuff needs to be approved now before matches.
John Moxley's contract will not be renewed.
Right? So, yeah, that was the big thing about AEW was that it was supposed to be less scripted. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the wrestlers worked out their matches. That's just what you do now. But for the most part, they had autonomy and could decide what to do on their own.
30% of that I get, right? The first 30% primarily.
Obviously,
right?
you want the wrestlers to be safe.
But, man, I mean, when you're talking about... Well, okay, I guess here's my first question, right? Approval from who?
So
Tony?
It said the list was made up by the medical staff. I assume Tony is available. Yeah, involved, and he would have the final say. Yeah.
I mean, is there that much sophistication inside the medical support system of AEW that they can say, yes, you're medically cleared to wrestle, but no, you're not cleared to take a bump on the apron, do a high risk off the turnbuckle to the outside? Like,
I could understand that from somebody like Daniel Bryan, who has had so many injuries and could easily get injured
you gotta
again.
trust a guy like Daniel Bryan to make the right decision for himself.
Right, that's probably where the line comes. Says these protocols were developed by the medical team, coaches, and referees.
Okay, don't pour booze on kids. I think everybody can get on board with that.
Yeah.
Like, anytime you're interacting direct. Like, no spitting, though?
I mean, MJF has spit on fans.
And I get it. Like, listen. Okay, don't spit at fans. Don't spit at fans. Like, if they just went, look, you can yell at them.
Flip them off.
Let's think about what isn't on there. Swearing.
Yep.
Swearing isn't on there. So you can call the fans a GDMF, blah, 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 expletive. That's fine. But if you happen to spit on them accidentally, you're in violation. The other thing is I want to see a list of consequences here.
Interesting.
Is this just a public display of some kind of authority? And again, we talked about it offline. This is just the WWE-ification, right? That we've been trending towards.
They're going more sports entertainment.
We're going to talk more about it later, but I wonder what this is going to do to the talent. I wonder. I can't help but think, like, what is Cody thinking right now? Is he thinking, I got out while the getting was good? Because if things start turning south there and AEW starts turning more like WWE and they start flooding into WWE, the money's not going to be there. I'm glad I got out when I did.
Yep.
When it was hot. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. We got Blood and Guts coming up this week.
That's right.
I mean, what a time. I mean, I wonder, and I would love to see somebody leak a list of things that aren't approved and what the context is. Somebody out there, Fightful or No DQ or somebody. I know Meltzer will never do it because he's in love with AEW, but someone's got to leak a list of stuff that wasn't approved, because that's really what's going to determine how successful or unsuccessful this particular policy is.
Yep. So before we get into our deep dives, just keep in mind, SummerSlam, the next PLE, we're going to be doing predictions for.
August 5th.
Yep, August 5th, and the Divas title will be on the line. So make your predictions count.
We'll be doing a watch along for sure.
Yes.
That Saturday night. We're going to try and get all four of us together. So we're going to do a watch along. We're going to have all four of us there. Should be a lot of fun. First watch along with all four of us there together. So we'll take your questions.
We mentioned
comments.
last week what the matches are looking like they're going to be. Sounds like a pretty decent show if it goes that way.
Yeah,
so
should be a good one. So check it out. More details to come.
All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty here.
As you well know, Matt, I struggle with certain aspects of the culture of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest struggle that I have, because it breaks my heart, is going to these events, these WrestleCons, with these old horses, these old retired dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And they're out there, and most of the time, they're very gracious, and they're very nice. I got to meet Teddy Long. It was an honor and a privilege. Obviously, sometimes you have good experiences. Sometimes you have not so good experiences.
Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Yeah, you did not have a good experience with him. But I'd say overall, it's generally a good experience. It just breaks my heart to watch my hero, not my hero anymore. And it's hard. It's hard for me, and it feels unpleasant. I feel like it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right to me. It makes me feel icky. And all these situations that we've been talking about lately make me feel really freaking icky. And this is one of them. So we've talked about Sergeant Slaughter shooting on Lacey Evans over that. There's been a little bit of controversy, a little bit of a difference of opinion between myself and Adam on this. Well, here's another one. So for the last couple of weeks, Kevin Nash of NWO fame, Diesel has recently on his podcast, Click This, has shot on LA Knight. And just a brief recap here. Basically, he said that he's a knockoff of The Rock. Am I the only one that thinks he's a knockoff of The Rock? Actually, here it is. I'll read it word for word. Quote, am I the only one that sees like an absolute ripoff of The Rock to the point when he cut the promo on the effing Logan Paul or whatever the F his name is? The only thing he didn't do was turn the mother effing sideways. Jesus Christ, does everybody have amnesia? There's nothing original. That was his original comment on LA Knight. So LA Knight came back, I think via Twitter, and took a very broke kayfabe and basically was like, you know, hey, look, like, you know, I'm aiming to be a better version of The Rock and Steve Austin, basically. I'm combining those two together, and I'm trying to be something better.
Which you should.
And he also mentioned that people used to compare Kobe Bryant to Michael Jordan, and that it was a really good comparison, that it was really healthy, and it was really good. Well, a few days ago, at the beginning of this week, Nash responded.
Oh, boy.
And he said, quote, if I put a pair of Jordans and a Kobe Bryant jersey on and walked through the mall, I'm not going to have their game. Now, there was some talk on the internet of basically like, well, your buddy Scott Hall basically knocked off Scarface,
Exactly.
right?
That's what it was based on.
What everybody's thinking. And what he said in response to that is, quote, I just want to make that perfectly clear that somebody said, oh, your best friend impersonated Tony Montana as Scarface. Okay, pretty original idea. You know, pretty original idea if you take somebody from a motion picture and make them into a wrestling character. So pretty piss-poor defense,
Right.
If you ask me. And I guess what gets to me about this is, yeah, I like LA Knight and I kind of like Kevin Nash, but it's like, I feel like he's just doing this for attention.
Like Sergeant Slaughter.
And that's why he's doubling down on it. Like, I think he maybe genuinely feels that way, and that's why he originally said it. He originally feels like it's a knockoff of The Rock, and that's. But now, despite the fact that LA Knight is trying to be a little gracious, he's trying to be a little nice, trying to respect the legend and the name that is Kevin Nash,
yep.
he's still shooting on him. He's trying to like steal some of his shine, and it just makes me feel icky. It's just like he's desperately trying to maintain relevancy in a world in which he's not relevant anymore.
Right.
He's not relevant. He's basically completely separated from the business. And honestly, I've listened to his show a bunch of times, and if you listen to him talking about going to the festivals, he phones it in, he wears his sweatpants, he doesn't take a shower, he goes down, hobnob. Matter of fact, I heard him tell one story a couple of months ago about how he went to this, I think it was one in like Las Vegas. It was one of these cons or something. And he like didn't even go down to his table on Sunday. He like got a call from somebody that was like, dude, there's a line in front of your table. And he like finished smoking weed or whatever it was he was doing up there and made his way down in his sweatpants. And was like bragging about this. Like, this is the thing. Like, the whole thing just makes me be like, this is the cool thing now. Like, the whole Slaughter and Lacey thing. Slaughter's never been in the news more than he's ever been before in the last 5 or 10 years. Now all of a sudden Nash is all over the wrestling news, even though he hasn't done anything relevant to the business in, what, a decade or more? Basically since he came out in Royal Rumble a decade ago was the last relevant thing he did in the business. And now he's like, he's just, it's icky. It's icky. It doesn't make me feel good. And it's making me feel like LA Knight needs to just shoot on him. And talk about how he's living off the shine of NWO. Like, it's just, I don't know. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Do you think there's another thing going on here? Because it drives me nuts.
I mean,
It's
when
ridiculous.
when it comes to Kevin Nash in general, we've heard the stories for years that he's all about the money. And any way he can make himself...
No, the polite way to say that is, he's a businessman.
Right, sorry. He's a businessman.
Not he's selfish.
But I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're not going to be building up, if you're not going to be helping to build the business, then you're not contributing, period.
It's not even like he's offering constructive criticism.
Right.
I wish he'd do this, or I wish he'd
I'm
do
not
that.
crazy about this. It might be better if you try this, or, you know, whatever.
Like, there's no he's not like he's calling, like there's no evidence that he's like calling him and like offering him tips or anything like that, or doing anything. Like LA Knight's a veteran in the business now. Like
I mean, it's the same thing with Cornette, Jim Cornette.
Oh, shoots on AEW every day.
Every day he's
Yes.
saying something, running his mouth about something, and it's just to get views on his podcast, listeners, get people like us talking about it.
And I think Cornette's hysterical. Like a lot of his stuff is very funny, especially when he talks about the old days and how much he hates Vince Russo and stuff. That's all great, but
Right.
it's like, I don't know. I want to be like, not to pull a line from The Rock here, but it's like, dude, know your role. Like your job is to sit behind the mic and talk about the good old days.
Right.
That's what we want you for. That's what you're here for. You're here to talk about the good old days when you drank too much and you smoked too much and you did too many things that you shouldn't have done. Blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear you sit across from Stone Cold Steve Austin and talk about the day you realized WCW was going to die. That's interesting to me. But whether you think LA Knight is interesting or not, that is, I don't care, because LA Knight is 100 times more relevant than you are. And I hate saying that, but it's like, it's the truth, dude. Like, know your role and shut your mouth, I guess is what it comes down to. Now, if he were here, I'd say, hello, sir. Nice to meet you. Good day.
Please don't powerbomb
You
me.
are quite tall. 7'4". Wow. I will see you later, sir. So yeah, that's that. Please comment below. Let us know what you think about it. But I'm glad that didn't turn into a crap ton of negativity, because I had a lot of strong feelings about that.
And this week's Wrestling Rant is brought to you by Kevin Nash's podcast. Click this.
Click this. Don't listen if you don't want to be mad. Let's move on. Let's talk about AEW.
Yep.
And I just want to say, don't ring the bell and don't take a drink, but just take a moment. Let's just take a moment to pause and talk about what we haven't talked about yet on this show.
Do we have to? It's been such a good show.
Let's just take a minute. We haven't said it yet. We're not going to say it.
Say what?
Exactly. But we haven't talked about it on
We're
this
not
show.
talking about a certain person
And
that
it's
we usually talk
the
about.
first show in a long time
A long time.
that we haven't done that. So let's just take a moment and enjoy that and see if we can shoehorn him into the rest of the show. Okay. This is from Fightful. Apparently, Warner Brothers Discovery is starting to put a little pressure on. There's talk of AEW having going to a more monthly premium live event, which is outstanding.
Pay-per-view.
'cause-
They do pay-per-view.
Right now they do pay-per-view. The
Right.
talk is that Warner Brothers might put them on HBO Max, or perhaps, not really a good fit for the Discovery app, but I think HBO Max would be a better fit. And, we've had this shoehorn's really great, because we've been talking about how the wrestling market is so saturated right now. One of the saving graces is that there's only, I think, 8 premium live
Not
events
even.
or pay-per-views.
4 or 5 for AEW.
Yeah, it's one a quarter, a little more than one a quarter.
Right, yeah, they do. They have 4 big ones, and now they just started doing Forbidden Door. That's their 5.
So yeah, what they're saying is one major possibility to come with a potential deal with Warner Brothers Discovery would be a monthly pay-per-view or premium live event. No word yet on AEW potentially streaming the pay-per-views on Max, which would be great, or even getting their quickly growing library of content onto there. But one Warner Brothers Discovery source did confirm that the deal would be a, quote, huge money increase for AEW.
Yeah, the rumors are this is going to be a $1 billion deal.
Whoa!
That's why.
Holy crap!
That's why. What's his name in his promo there said they were calling him One Bill Phil. Yeah. We're not gonna say his name though.
Dude,
We're talking about.
you said Phil.
That's not. Well, yeah.
It's his name. All right.
It's
Take
not
a
the
drink.
name. It's
Take
not
a
the,
drink.
It's not the name that everyone else knows him by. Come on.
But yeah, I mean, so I mean, I guess my take it. I mean, I love AEW, so my take is, I mean, put it on. Yeah, heck yes, put it on HBO Max.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that makes it easier for us to watch.
There's talk too of them doing like a UFC type program where all the TV and everything will be on streaming, but you still have to pay separately for the pay-per-views.
If I'm Warner Brothers Discovery and I'm thinking about this, if I put my business hat on, I'm thinking, have I reached market saturation with HBO Max? HBO Max already offers,
That's just Max now.
Max offers some really great content,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to obviously a huge library and all the great historic, Sopranos and all that stuff. I mean, they have a great content profile right now. I've got Max. Do you have Max?
I do.
A lot of people have Max. I'm wondering how many more subscribers they're going to get.
If AEW gets added.
Just the pay-per-views. Because you might, the weekly show I would think there'd be more, because then if I wasn't subscribed, I would be. Now there's a whole bunch of people that don't have cable but have internet.
Well, it was
and so they don't really have access to the weekly content. They're watching highlights or whatever, they're booting it, they're pirating it, but they're not getting the real content.
It was the same thing with WWE. When they got rid of the WWE Network and moved to Peacock, that was the only reason I got Peacock, was to keep the network.
Yeah, and then you found out that setup wasn't so good either.
Right, but all the other stuff on Peacock is
well,
worth
and it's
having.
worth if you're paying $8 a month or whatever. Yeah, you're gonna save a crap ton. But I'm just wondering, we're using dollar figures that start with B here, and I'm just thinking where's the return on investment here? Because you're not gonna get whatever $1 billion divided by 8 is.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 200 million.
Well, that's the problem with
new
streaming.
Subscribers.
That's the problem with streaming in general, isn't it? The subscription fees are so low. Most of these companies are having to take stuff off of their streaming services. Like the biggest example of that recently is Disney. They're getting rid of content on there that's less than a year old to try and save money. So
yeah, it takes up space, right? Storing all that data and being able to stream it is
getting a return on that
cost.
in general for any company is going to be a struggle.
And the fact that Amazon is doing that tells you something, because Amazon Web Services is a huge function of their business. But it just while I agree with the decision as a wrestling fan, I think in this instance, I agree with Mr. Tito. Less is more in this instance. I think they should keep it at the 8. If you really want to add value, get that weekly show on there. Even if it's on a 24-hour delay or a 48-hour delay, that is how you're going to build your subscriber base. Because there is a decent group of people out there that don't have Max and don't have cable. And
less,
totally subscribe.
Less pay-per-views makes the pay-per-views more special.
It's more room for story.
And people are more willing to spend $50 a quarter. I get the pay-per-views. I wouldn't be able to get it if it was every month.
Yeah, you could. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to put it on Max, I would say okay, and get the AEW pay-per-view package for
an extra $10 a month or something.
I was gonna say $50 a year or something. Get that add-on, get that additional add-on to your Max subscription for $5 a month or whatever it happens to be.
Yep.
Okay, then you're gonna build some revenue off of that, because I don't know what their pay-per-view buys are right now. I haven't looked it up, but even if it's a few 100,000 and it's $10 or something like that, you're gonna make You're gonna make millions back.
They've made well over $1 million on several pay-per-views.
And if it's $1 billion,
right?
If it's $1 billion, this is minimum 5, maybe 10-year deal.
Yep.
Which is good, because that means we're gonna have AEW for 5 or 10 more years, pretty much no matter what.
Right.
Because the cash flow is gonna be there. So it's good news overall, but more saturation of the market. We'll have to see what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
My last topic for this week is an interesting one. I read an interesting opinion piece over at No DQ from Roy Costin that came out, and it touched on a topic that we haven't talked about that I thought was very interesting. It was the idea of the meme wrestler. And the question he asked in the article was, which we will link below, the question we asked in the article was, are meme wrestlers hurting wrestling? So let's start. So do you, Professor?
Yeah, what is a meme wrestler?
Yeah, it's all new age. We're like old guys. I feel like an old guy now. So I'll read directly from the article. It says, quote, "What is a meme wrestler? The best way to sum it up is that a meme wrestler gets over ironically with the crowd." Mm-hmm. Now, my first thought, just reading that definition, not reading anything else in the article, just reading that definition, immediately, do you know who came into my mind?
Orange Cassidy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy, right?
Yep.
You see a guy come out, he's got his hands in his pockets, he's doing the fake...
The lazy kicks.
The lazy kicks, right? The crowd, he's getting way over with the crowd, right? That's exactly who I thought of. And while I think he maybe started out that way. He's not really mean. We know that he's got game. The one that he particularly looks at is Hook. Before Hook made his in-ring debut, he was seen multiple times in segments with Team Taz, usually eating a bag of chips. This young, handsome, silent figure stood there, ruffling a bag of chips for what felt like months before he competed in the ring. Every time he was on television, the crowd would go absolutely crazy. Then on December 10th, 2021, Hook made his in-ring debut on an episode of Rampage to thunderous ovation.
I remember that. They were all over it.
So it's an interesting note because meme wrestling seems to be the new technique for character development. Right? It's like an Easter egg. It's like a tease. Like, why is the camera staying on this guy in the background that's eating chips? It doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's like total non sequitur. Something's going to happen there. Something's going, and then they do it again, and they do it again. It builds heat, and it builds heat, and it builds heat, and then boom, 3-4 months later, Hook comes out, and then you find out that the guy can actually wrestle.
Right.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard for me to imagine. I mean, honestly, after reading the article, I'm kind of like, this is kind of a stupid question to ask. Because, of course, meme wrestlers are not hurting wrestling. I mean, I would love to hear an argument that they are hurting. I mean, can you steel man that argument? What possible argument could there be why developing a character, teasing him or her, bringing them out, like, how could that possibly hurt wrestling? Building the popularity of the sport and the business?
The only thing I could think is if building that wrestler takes away from another wrestler. Like, if someone else in Team Taz was supposed to be breaking out, but everyone was focusing on Hook.
I mean, at the end of the day, wrestling, especially on television, is a zero-sum endeavor. There's only 90 minutes of television every week that you have. So if MJF is taking a minute, then that's a minute that somebody else doesn't have on the screen.
Right.
So in that instance, it's totally true. But if you've got a guy that you want to do something with, I mean, this is a great, instead of just throwing him out there, I mean, they really should be trying to meme people like Hook, guys that don't really have a national following, guys that you're trying to build up and make something big with. And I guess, to me, it seems like another thought that I had was that WWE is too big to do that. Like, memeing is kind of like an indie thing. It's kind of like, it's like driven by the fans.
Starts out with word of mouth or something.
And so much of WWE is overproduced, glossy, astroturfed support.
Right. They're going to push who they want no matter what.
All the way down to, exactly, they force it. It's like the 1980s or the 90s when it's like, oh, you know, we made Britney Spears a pop star. It's like, no, you paid off all the radio stations to play her music. And even if you only get 0.5% of the people who hear her music are fans, you're going to sell out every stadium in the United States because it's millions of people. And it's the same thing with WWE. Like, there's such a juggernaut in the industry right now that you just keep putting the guy on television, and we will make you love them no matter what. Which is the same thing they've done with Roman Reigns.
Yep.
Everybody, they force them down your throat. They
did it for John Cena for over a decade.
They did it with Cena, right? They forced him. You will love it. You will love it. And so they can't really meme. This is like, so now they're trying to force it. They're taking guys that are already memes and they're integrating them into the product. The latest stint with Logan Paul, right? He's doing a thing with Ricochet. I mean, who's more meme than Logan Paul right now on the internet? Ridiculously popular. You know, holographic first edition Charizard hanging from his neck. Like, the guy is a walking meme. There's no doubt about it. And he's always doing things just to get attention, whether it be the Mayweather fight, you know, all that kind of stuff to build. You know, they're trying to force it. They're trying to do their own version of meme, but because they don't know how to do it organically, they have to buy it and bring it in, and they're going to spend massive sums of money, millions and millions of dollars, to try to put something together. Right now it's working with Ricochet, but it's like meme adjacent. It's not really, he's not really a meme guy.
I think we've said the word meme too much.
It's like forced, you know? And yeah, there's something, I don't know, he makes mention in the article of Von Wagner, a couple of guys that they tried. It kind of worked at first, and then it kind of faded away because you get the little embers burning,
And then you don't.
and then you walk away.
Right.
You gotta get it air. You gotta blow on it. You gotta develop it. You gotta put more kindling on it and get that fire nice and big. And they get the embers going, and then they either dump water on it or they walk away and they let it burn out. You know what I mean? And there's no, I don't know. I think I'd love to see more meme wrestling and meme wrestlers. It would be a great way to kind of tease a comeback, maybe even. And I think it's something that we should be seeing a lot more of, because one-word phrases and things like that, like catchphrases and that kind of thing, all those things are very meme-worthy.
Damn.
It's the damn. Excellent meme. That's a perfect example. That's probably the last non-AstroTurfed.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
And how long ago was that? A decade?
At least 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, a decade or more. You know, so it's like, yeah, they can't do it anymore. They've gotten too big. So I think it's cool. I think we need to see more of it. And if you're a relatively small company, all you need is one clever guy wearing a Wrestling with the Business shirt that can do memes, and he'll do it for $500,000-$600,000 a year. That's a bargain compared to what WWE's trying to do with Logan Paul. I'll work for way less than Logan Paul. So just throwing that out there. AEW, if ever you want to actually make meme wrestling a real thing, I'm happy to support you on that endeavor. Yeah, so that's it. Let us know what you think below on meme wrestling. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Who's your favorite meme wrestler? I think probably my favorite right now is Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
He's probably the best.
Yeah, he's the best at it.
He's carrying a belt right now, so you can't argue with that. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below. New Falls Count Anywhere coming out on Monday. Please check that out.
Fan questions.
Happy to answer your fan questions. And we promise the table will be a little more crowded next week. And if you keep watching, we'll keep wrestling with the business. Catch you later. Hey, Matt. What do Kevin Nash...
You want to get your mic out? Blooper.
I was just checking to see if you were ready.
Is it on?